From the diary of Anne Frank. So today we are going to discuss about this chapter and let us enjoy the entire thing what Anne Frank she wants to share with us. The diary begins as like this. Writing in a diary is a really strange experience for someone like me. Not only because I've never written anything before, but also because it seems to me that later on neither I nor anyone else will be interested in the musings of a 30-year-old schoolgirl. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. I feel like writing, and I have an even greater need to get all kinds of things off my chest. Here, the speaker, Anne Frank, she says that she was a 13 years old girl and is or was as I am saying, so I will use present tense, okay? So is expressing her feelings about writing in a diary for the first time. She finds it strange and wonders if her thoughts will be meaningful to anyone in the future, including herself. Despite her doubts, she feels a strong urge to write and share her thoughts and feelings. This indicates a desire for self-expression and a need to process her experiences, even if she thinks they might not be important later on. Paper has more patience than people. I thought of this saying on one of those days when I was feeling a little depressed and was sitting at home with my chin in my hands, bored and listless, wondering whether stay in or go out. I finally stayed where I was, brooding. Yes, paper does have more patience, and since I'm not planning to let anyone else read this stiff-backed notebook, grandly referred to as a diary. Unless I should never find a real friend, it probably won't make a bit of difference. So in this part, Anne Frank, she continues to reflect on her saying that paper has more patience than people. This thought comes to her while she was feeling sad and bored at home. That means boring. Okay. Contemplating whether to go outside or stay inside the house. She decides to stay inside the house and thinks about how paper, like her diary, can hold her thoughts and feelings without judgment or impatience, unlike people. Sh- She also mentions that she doesn't intend to let anyone read her diary unless she finds a true friend. This shows her desire for a safe space to express herself freely without fear of criticism. Now, I'm back to the point that prompted me to keep a diary in the first place. I don't have a friend. So, here in this statement, the speaker she returns to the main reasons that she started writing in her diary. Her lack of friends, but she don't have friends. This simple statement highlights her loneliness and desire for connection. It suggests that she is using the diary as an outlet for her thoughts and feelings because she feels isolated and doesn't have anyone to share her experiences with her. The diary becomes a way for her to express herself and cope with her feelings of solitude. Let me put it more clearly, since no one will believe that a 13-year-old girl is completely alone in the world, and I'm not. I have loving parents and a 16-year-old sister, and there are about 30 people I can call friends. I have a family, loving aunts, and a good home. No one, no, on the surface, I seem to have everything except my one true friend. That means diary. All I think about when I'm with friends is having a good time. I can't bring myself to talk about anything but ordinary, everyday things. We don't seem to be able to get any closer, and that's the problem. Maybe it's my fault that we don't confide in each other. In any case, that's just how things are, and unfortunately, they're not liable to change. This is why I've started the diary. So, in this passage, the speaker clarifies that while she appears to have a supportive family and many acquaintances, she still she still feels alone, lonely, isolated because she lacks a close true friend. She acknowledges her loving parents, sisters, and friends and realizes that her friendships are superficial, focused only on having fun and not on deeper conversations or connections. She questions whether it's her fault for not being able to open up or share more personal feelings with her friends. Ultimately, she feels stuck in her situation, which is why she decided to start keeping a diary. It's a space where she can express her true thoughts and feelings without the constraint of her friendship. To enhance the image of this long-awaited friend in my imagination, I don't want to jot down the facts in this diary the way most people would do. But I want the diary to be my friend, and I'm going to call this friend Kitty. That means diary she named as Kitty. So friend, okay, diary of Anne Frank becomes Kitty. So in this passage, the speaker expresses her desire to create a special bond with her diary by personifying. That means personification. That means this device she used, okay, personifying it as a friend named Kitty. Okay, instead of just writing down facts like most people might do, she wants to use the diary as a confidant where she can share her thoughts and feelings. By naming it as Kitty, she enhances the idea of having a close, trusted friend to confide in, reflecting her longing for connection and understanding in her life. This approach allows her to feel more comfortable expressing herself and opens up a space for her to explore her emotions. So students, this oral comprehension questions that you have to check, okay, don't ignore this type of questions if it is given in the text. So you should at least orally attempt and write by yourself. Practice how to express the answer in brief. It is very important. Don't ignore or avoid this comprehensions, because this will enhance your better understanding and best skill to develop how to express the. Since no one would understand a word of these to Kitty if I were to plunge right in, I'd better provide a brief sketch of my life, much as I dislike doing so. So here the speaker acknowledges that her diary, which she has named Kitty, may not make sense to anyone else if she were to start writing her thoughts and feelings without context. She feels that she needs to give a brave overview life to help Kitty by mm, by extending herself, okay, understand her experiences better. Although she dislikes the idea of summarizing her life, she realizes it's necessary for sharing her story and building a connection with her imagined friend. Imagined friend. This highlights her desire for understanding and the need to express her clearly. My father, the most adorable father I've ever seen, didn't marry my mother until he was 36 and she was 25. Father 36, mother 25. My sister Margot, eldest sister Margot of Anne Frank, was born in Frankfurt in Germany in 1926, born on 12th June 1929. I lived in Frankfurt until I was 4 years. My father emigrated to Holland in 1933. My mother, Edith Frank, went with me to Holland September, while Margot and I were sent to stay with our grandmother. Margot went to Holland in December, and I followed in February when I was plunked down on the table as a birthday present for Margot. So here the speaker expresses and provides a brief overview of her family's history. It is quite simple to understand. She describes her father adorable, loving, dear father, and notes that he married her mother when he was 36 years of old and her mother was 25. The speaker mentions that her sister Margaret was born in Frankfurt, Germany in 1926 and she was born on June, while Anne Frank was born on June 12th, 1929. They lived in Frankfurt until the speaker was 4 years old. In 1933, their father emigrated to Holland, by Germany only. And while he was there, the speaker and Margaret were sent to stay with their grandmother in Aachen. Margot moved to Holland in December, and the speaker joined them in February, arriving as a birthday present for Margot. This passage sets the stage for speaker's family background and their experiences leading up to their relocation. I started right away at the Montessori nursery school. I stayed there until I was 6, at which I started in the first form. In the sixth form, my Mrs. Cooperus at the end of the year, as we said in Heartbreak. So here in this passage, the speaker shares details about her early education. She began attending Montessori nursery school right away and stayed there until she turned 6, which she started in the first grade. She mentions that in the sixth grade, her teacher was Mrs. Cooperus, who was also the headmistress of the school. The speaker recalls a touching farewell at the end of the year where both she and Mrs. Cooperus were tears, highlighting the strong emotional bondage they developed during their time together. This reflects the importance of her school experience and the relationship she formed there. Moving ahead with the next paragraph. In the summer of 1941, Grandma fell ill and had to have an operation, so birthday passed with little celebration. Grandma died in January 1942. No one knows when I think of her and still love her. This birthday celebration in 1942 was intended to make up for the other, and Grandma's candle was lit along with the rest. The four of us are still doing well, and that brings me to the present date of 20 June 1942 and the solemn dedication of my diary. So, here in this passage, the speaker reflects on a difficult time in her life. In the summer of 1941, in the summer of 1941, what happened? Her grandmother fell ill and required surgery, which caused her birthday to go by with little celebration. Tragically, what happened? Her grandmother passed away in January 1942 after surgery. The speaker reveals that she thinks about and loves her grandmother often, indicating a deep emotional connection. In 1942, she hoped to make up for a lack of celebration of her on her previous birthday by lighting a candle for her grandmother alongside the others. The speaker then mentions that her immediate family, her parents and sister are still doing well, and she notes the date June 20th, 1942, making the significance of her diary as a space for her thoughts and feelings. This shows her desire to honor, respect her grandmother's memory while also acknowledging her current circumstances. Again, I remind students after listening this discussion, try to answer orally to given comprehension or the questions that will develop your thinking skill too. Moving ahead with the rest of the uh, diary portion of in Saturday 20th June 1942. Dearest Kitty, this is the format only, okay? So you should also remember how to write your diary. It will help you for getting best mark during examination if you get the question to write diary. Okay, diary can be uh, written in informal way. Okay, but how to know the things, where to write, what to write, you should remember. So she starts, dearest Kitty, our entire class in cracking in its boots. The reason, of course, is the forthcoming meeting in which the teachers decide who will move up to the next form and who will be kept back. That means pass and fail, promoted and not promoted. Okay. Half the class is making bets. GN and I laugh ourselves silly at the two boys behind us, CN and Jackus, who have staked their entire holiday saving on their bet from morning to night. It's you're going to pass. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Even G's pleading glances and my angry outbursts can't calm them down. If you ask me, there are so many dummies that about a quarter of the class should be kept back. But teachers are the most unpredictable creatures on earth. So here, in in is writing in her diary, that means Kitty only, okay, describes the anxious atmosphere in her class as they await a meeting, that means PTM, parent teachers meet, where teachers will decide who gets promoted to the next grade and who will be held back. Many students are nervous and some are making bets on outcome. The speaker finds humor in the two boys behind her, CN and Jax, who are so invested in their bets that they've used their holiday savings. They constantly argue about whether they'll pass or fail, which annoys the speaker and her friends GN. She observes that many students in the class aren't performing well and believes a significant number should be held back. However, she notes that teachers are unpredictable, which adds to the uncertainty of the situation. So, this passage captures the mix of anxiety and humor in her school life. I'm worried about my girlfriends and myself. Well, we'll make it. The only subject I'm not sure about is maths. Anyway, all we can do is wait until then. We keep telling each other who's hurt. So here the speaker expresses confidence that she and her girlfriends will pass to the next grade. All anxiety in the class. The only subject she feels uncertain about is math. She acknowledges that for now they can only wait to find out the results to keep their spirits up. She and her friends reassures each other not to lose hope. This reflects her supportive attitude towards her friends and her determination to remain positive despite the uncertainty surrounding their promotion. I get along pretty well with all my teachers. There are nine of them, seven men and two women. Mr. Kissing, the old fogey who teaches maths, was annoyed with me for ages because I talked so much. After several warnings, he assigned me extra homework and an essay on the subject, a chatter box. So, mm, maths teacher Mr. Kissing, the old fogey, calls Anne Frank as a chatter box. Why? Because she was very talkative in the classroom. So, as a homework, she had given to write an essay on the subject a chatterbox. A chatterbox, what can you write about that? I'd worry about that later. I decided I jotted down the title in my notebook, tucked it in my bag, and tried to keep quiet. So here in this passage, the speaker shares her positive relationship with her teachers, noting that there are nine in total teachers in her school or for the classroom, seven men and two women. She specifically mentioning and highlighting about Mr. Kissing, a math teacher who has been annoyed with her for talking too much in the classroom. After several warnings, he decided to give her extra homework in the form of an essay titled A Chatterbox. Initially, she finds the topic challenging and thinks about how to approach it later. To avoid further trouble, she makes an effort to be quiet in class. This passage highlights her light-hearted perspective on her school life, her struggle with being chatty, and her willingness to comply with her teacher's demands while also showcasing her determination to think about the essay in her own time. That evening, after I'd finished the rest of my homework, the note about the essay caught my eye. I began thinking about the subject while chewing the tip of my fountain pen. Anyone could ramble on and leave big spaces between the words, but the trick was to come up with convincing arguments to prove the necessity of talking. I thought, and suddenly I had an idea. I wrote the 3 pages Mr. Kissing had assigned me and was satisfied. I argued that talking is a student's trait and that I would do my best to keep it under control, but that I would never be able to cure myself of the habit since my mother talked as much as I did, if not more, and that there's not much more you can do about inherited traits. So this is the thing that why she is a chatterbox. Something we get during our birth, okay, by the inheriting qualities from our parents. So we need to sometimes we need to control our such type of behavior also if we realize, okay. But in this passage, let us understand the speaker reflects on her homework assignment about being a chatterbox after finishing her other tasks. Pondering the topics and chewing on her fountain pen, she realizes that simply writing a lot of words instead isn't enough. She needs to provide arguments in favor of talking. After she comes up with a compelling idea and writes 3 pages for Mr. Kissing. In her essay, she argues that talking is a natural trait among students and acknowledges her own difficulty in controlling it. She harmoniously suggests that her talking habit is inherited from her mother, who is just a chatty, if not more so. This passage illustrates her creativity, her ability to think critically, and her light-hearted approach to the assignment while also highlighting the connection between her personality and her family. Mr. Kissing had a good laugh at my arguments, but when I proceeded to talk my way through the next lesson, he assigned me a second essay. The time that was supposed to be on incorrigible chatterbox. Incorrigible chatterbox. Handed it in. I handed it in, and Mr. Kissing had to complain about for 2 whole lessons. However, during the third lesson, he finally had enough. In Frank, as punishment, talking in class, write an essay entitled "Quack Quack Quack," said Mistress Chatterbox. So this is another essay given to this little girl, okay, A Frank, and this is Kissing, Mr. Kissing, maths teacher, okay. So in the classroom, again another topic, and the friend behind, okay, is laughing, and others also. So students, control your chatter in the classroom, okay. I know how the habits of the students are, okay. So as I also been a student, okay, I used to have this quality, but control, okay, don't disturb the teacher or the lesson. So in this passage, okay, the speaker recounts her interaction with Mr. Kissing after submitting her essay. He found her arguments amusing, but when she continued to talk during the next class, he assigned her a second essay titled "An Incorrigible Chatterbox." After she turned that in, Mr. Kissing didn't complain for 2 lessons. However, by the third lesson, he grew tired of her talking again and decided to assign her another essay as punishment, this time with a humorous title, "Quack Quack Quack," said Mistress Chatterbox. This illustrates the ongoing playful conflict between the speaker and her teacher, highlighting her personality as a talkative student, and Mr. Kissing attempts to manage her behavior through creative assignments. The light-hearted tone also reflects the speaker's resilience and ability to navigate these challenges with humor. The class roared. I had a laugh too, though I really exhausted my ingenuity on the topic of chatterboxes. It was time to come up with something else, something original. My friend Shane, remember, okay? My friend Sunny, okay? My friend Sunny, who's good at poetry, offered to help me write the essay from beginning to end in verse, and I jumped for joy. Mr. Kissing was trying to play a joke on me with this ridiculous subject, but I'd make sure the joke was on him. So what happened? Opposite thing happened. Mr. Kissing thought of doing correction, but opposite happened. So let us understand in this passage, the speaker describes the reaction of her classmates to Mr. Kissing's latest essay assignment. Quack, 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 said Mistress Chatterbox. The class finds it hilarious, and the speaker herself laughs, even though she feels she has run out of clever ideas about chatterboxes. She realizes it's time to think of something new and original. Her friend Sani, who is skilled in poetry writing, offers to help her writing the essay entirely in verses. The speaker feels excited about this collaboration and sees it as an opportunity to turn Mr. Kissing's joke back on him. This passage showcases her creativity, camaraderie with her friends, and determination to make the best out of a humorous situation. I Okay. I finished my poem and it was beautiful. It was about the father swan with three babies who were bitten by the father because they quacked too much. Luckily, Mr. King took the joke the right way. He read the poem to the class, adding his own comments and to several other classes as well. Since then, I've been allowed to talk and haven't been assigned any extra homework. On the contrary, Mr. Kissing's always making jokes these days. Yours and so finally, what student in the passage we can see the teacher was defeated from giving punishments to Ain Frank. Passage finally the speaker shares about completing the poem she wrote with her friend's help, Sunny. The poem basically tells the story of a mother duck and a father with three baby ducklings who are bitten to death by their father because the poem reflected on Mr. Kissing only and the students of his classroom. They crack too much. Mr. Kissing responds positively to the poem he read. He read it to the class and even shares it with other classes, adding his own comments along the way. Since then, the speaker has enjoyed more freedom to talk in class and hasn't received any extra homework as punishment. In fact, Mr. Kissing has become more light-hearted and often makes jokes. This passage highlights the speaker's creativity and the shift in her relationship with Mr. Kissing, the math teacher, from a strict teacher to a more relaxed and humorous one, demonstrating how humor can create a positive classroom environment. So overall, the passage, what we have read in the diary, the speaker, I'll let you know the overview of the entire diary. Okay, so in this entire diary, the speaker was a 13 years old girl named Anne Frank shares her experiences and thoughts while writing in her diary, which she personifies as Kitty. She reflects on her feelings of loneliness despite having a loving family and many acquaintances. expressing a longing for a true friend. Ain recounts her early education and her relationship with her teachers, particularly Mr. Kissing, math teacher, who has grown frustrated with her talking too much in class. After being assigned as a form of little punishment for her chatter, Ain cleverly decides to write a humorous poem about a mother duck and a father swan whose baby ducklings are beaten for quacking too much. Her creativity wins over Mr. Kissing, who enjoys the poem and shares it with other classes. As a result, Ain gains more freedom to speak in class and finds that Mr. Kissing has become more relaxed. Overall, the passage the passage illustrates Ain's witty and imaginative personality, her desire for connection, and her ability to navigate the challenges of adolescence through humor and creativity. Finally, what moral we get from this diary? The moral from this diary that we get, okay, from this passage is that creativity and humor can transform challenges. Okay, creativity and humor can transform challenges to opportunities for connection. And so thank you very much for share half an hour, that means 36 minutes. So I hope you would have enjoyed the discussion, and as usual I advise please read one more time for deepest understanding. Thank you. We'll meet with the next chapter. Till then,